Well, hot on the heels of their competitor Microsoft, who announced their new Xbox Series in Europe last week, Sony have unveiled the PlayStation 5. And these games consoles are proving to be incredibly popular on the first day of sales after they were launched at midnight on Thursday across Europe. But a number of consumers were met with crashing websites and long online queues as retailers struggled to cope with the increased demand. For example, Currys and PC World in the United Kingdom confirmed on Twitter that there will be no PlayStation 5s available to buy on Thursday, recognizing that this will be disappointing news for a number of consumers. And it was a similar story across the continent. And this led to a number of people expressing their disappointment on social media. You had one person in the UK saying that it was a shambles, another person in Germany taking a stab at the disappointing customer service they had received after they had tried to order a PlayStation 5. You can understand the hype around these consoles when you consider that the huge marketing campaign by Sony has led to this. Here at Oxford Circus, the traditional London Underground signs were changed to represent the logos on a PlayStation 5 controller. And you also have queues in the street as well. A number of people, despite COVID-19 restrictions, waiting outside high street shops to find and try and buy a PlayStation 5 console. But the story overall on Thursday was a lot of disappointment across Europe, with many consumers not being able to get the consoles they wanted as retailers struggled to cope with the demand.
Well, if you're thinking about treating yourselves to a new game console, you might be pleased to hear that a new study has found a couple of games could have a positive influence on people's well-being. The Oxford University researchers tracked the amount of time survey respondents spent in-game and combined this data with a survey of players' mental well-being. Well, to help us understand a little bit more, I'm joined now by the study's lead, Professor Andy Shabilsky. Thank you very much for speaking to us. So you found a positive correlation between the time spent playing these particular games and well-being. Tell us more about the findings.
Well, I mean, it was an interesting study, if only because we bothered to collect data on people's actual play. So we partnered up with Nintendo of America and Electronic Arts. And we tried to build statistical models that link the kinds of things that players told us about their well-being to the kinds of things that they were doing in-game. And, you know, from that, we did find a small positive correlation. And we're really keen to see if these kinds of things hold up over time.
So gaming often gets a really bad press. And to be really clear, can you tell us a bit about the games that you studied? Because it was Animal Crossing. It wasn't like a shooting game that we might come to mind when we think of someone sort of spending hours playing a game.
Yeah, so we had to focus on relatively modern, internet-connected social games because those were really the only ones we could get the data out of. Things might be different with kind of online role-playing games like World of Warcraft or shooting games like Call of Duty. We really just don't know yet. So until gaming companies really kind of forcefully share much more of their data with academics like me, we won't have questions about things like, we won't have answers to questions about really serious things like addiction or aggression.
Yeah, why do you think you saw some positive interaction there? And ultimately, you don't want to be maybe a parent at home now, having your child say, look, that's great, I can play my games console for hours and hours on end now. There must be a point where you say, no, there is X amount of hours, which would be too many hours spent gaming.
Yeah, I mean, please don't take this as a prescription from the University of Oxford to go out and buy a bunch of games. I think they sell themselves quite well. But no, I think it's really important for parents to be involved in the games that their kids are playing. It's very important to know that you're playing a game because you feel like you want to versus you feeling like you have to. And really making sure that the social connections that you have in play, because that's really their most important feature in 2020, making sure that you know who's on the other side and you're happy with those relationships.